Know when to quit. The sunk cost fallacy. In life, we often face decisions about whether to continue investing our time, money, or effort into a particular endeavor. While perseverance is generally considered a virtue, there are times when the wisest course of action is to cut our losses and move on. Understanding the sunk cost fallacy can help us make better decisions in various aspects of our lives, from personal relationships to professional pursuits. In this article, we'll explore what the sunk cost fallacy is, why we fall for it, and how to overcome it. What is the sunk cost fallacy? The sunk cost fallacy is a cognitive bias that influences decision-making. It occurs when we continue a behavior or endeavor as a result of previously invested resources, time, money, or effort. This fallacy leads us to make decisions based on past costs that cannot be recovered, rather than on potential future outcomes. The Rome versus Paris dilemma. To illustrate this concept, consider the following scenario. You're planning your summer vacation and book a non-refundable trip to Rome for $2,000. The next day, you find a discounted trip to Paris, your favorite city, for $1,000. You book this trip as well, only to realize later that both trips are scheduled for the same week. You can't change the dates or get refunds. Which trip do you choose? Many people would choose Rome to minimize their perceived loss, $1,000 versus $2,000. However, this thinking is flawed. The money for both trips is already spent and can't be recovered. The logical choice is to select the option that will bring the most future enjoyment. In this case, the trip to Paris. Why do we fall for the sunk cost fallacy? Several psychological factors contribute to our susceptibility to the sunk cost fallacy. Loss aversion. We tend to feel the pain of losses more acutely than the pleasure of equivalent gains. This makes us reluctant to accept losses and more likely to try to recover our investments. Commitment and consistency. We have a strong desire to appear consistent in our decisions and behaviors. Abandoning a course of action can feel like admitting a mistake, which many find uncomfortable. The endowment effect. We tend to overvalue things simply because we own them or have invested in them. Fear of waste. We're taught from a young age not to waste resources, which can make it difficult to walk away from investments, even when continuing is not in our best interest. Emotional attachment. We often become emotionally invested in our choices, making it harder to let go. Examples of the sunk cost fallacy in everyday life. The sunk cost fallacy can manifest in various areas of our lives. 1. Entertainment choices. Imagine you've paid $10 for a movie ticket, but 15 minutes into the film, you realize it's not enjoyable. The sunk cost fallacy might compel you to stay and watch the entire movie to get your money's worth. However, the logical choice would be to leave and use your time more enjoyably, as the $10 is already spent regardless of whether you stay or go. 2. Relationships. People often remain in unhappy or even toxic relationships because they've invested significant time and effort. They might think, we've been together for 5 years. I can't just throw that away. However, staying in an unfulfilling relationship based on past investment doesn't lead to future happiness. 3. Career decisions. Consider a lawyer who spent 7 years in school and 3 years practicing law, only to realize they're unhappy in their profession. The sunk cost fallacy might keep them in this career path, thinking, I've already invested 10 years in this. I can't change now. However, it's important to consider whether staying in an unfulfilling career for the next 30 to 40 years is worth it, regardless of past investments. 4. Business decisions. Companies sometimes continue pouring resources into failing projects because they've already invested heavily. This can lead to even greater losses in the long run. 5. Government policy. Nations may escalate their involvement in conflicts partly because they feel the need to justify previous sacrifices, leading to further losses of life and resources. How to overcome the sunk cost fallacy. Recognizing and overcoming the sunk cost fallacy can lead to better decision-making. Here are some strategies to help. Focus on future value. When making decisions, concentrate on potential future outcomes rather than past investments. Practice mental accounting. Separate the cost of past decisions from the cost of future ones. Remind yourself that the money or time you've already spent is gone, regardless of your next move. Use opportunity cost thinking. Consider what you're giving up by continuing your current course of action. What could you do with your resources if you decided to change direction? Seek outside perspectives. Discuss your situation with trusted friends or mentors. They may be able to offer a more objective view, free from the emotional attachments you've developed. Set clear criteria for continuation. Before starting a project or pursuit, establish clear benchmarks for success and conditions under which you'll reassess or quit. Embrace learning from failure. View abandoning a failing course of action as a valuable learning experience rather than a waste. Practice mindfulness. Being more aware of your thoughts and emotions can help you recognize when the sunk cost fallacy is influencing your decisions. Reframe the situation. Instead of thinking about what you're losing by quitting, focus on what you're gaining: time, energy, and resources for new opportunities. A personal example: quitting video games. To illustrate how recognizing the sunk cost fallacy can lead to positive change, consider this personal anecdote. As a younger person, I was deeply invested in playing video games. I had a maxed out character that represented countless hours of effort. As I grew older, I found I no longer enjoyed gaming as much, but I struggled to quit. The thought of wasting all the time and effort I'd put into developing my character held me back. However, once I recognized this as a clear case of the sunk cost fallacy, I was able to make a change. I realized that continuing to play wouldn't bring back the time I'd already spent, and it would only lead to more time spent on an activity I no longer enjoyed. By cutting my losses and quitting, I freed up time and energy for new hobbies and pursuits that better aligned with my current interests and goals. Conclusion: the wisdom of knowing when to quit. Understanding the sunk cost fallacy doesn't mean we should give up at the first sign of difficulty or never commit to long-term projects. Perseverance and commitment are valuable traits. However, we need to be mindful of when we're making decisions based on unrecoverable past costs rather than future potential. By learning to recognize and overcome the sunk cost fallacy, we can make more rational decisions that align with our current values and goals. Remember, what's spent is spent. Instead of trying to justify past investments, focus on making choices that will bring the most value and happiness in the future. The ability to know when to persevere and when to quit is a crucial life skill. By freeing ourselves from the sunk cost fallacy, we open ourselves up to new opportunities and experiences that might otherwise have passed us by. So the next time you find yourself reluctant to change course because of past investments, take a step back, evaluate the situation objectively, and make a decision based on future prospects rather than past costs.